It is Wednesday evening, and that means it's time for another Auburn family night where we get together, we sit down, and we talk about what it is that you want to discuss within the Auburn experience. Sports, culture, family, it's all here. It's right now. Let's get into it. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, we appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being part of our little family within the Auburn family. As always, we'd love for you to start off the stream by smashing that like button if you feel like we've earned it. But also, we'd love for you to start the chat off by posting where you're watching from, your city, your state. If you're international, you can do that too. And of course, with the War Eagle, let me know that you are here hanging out to talk about the Auburn experience. As is the case with every Wednesday night, this is a show that's produced for you and produced by you. So your topics, what you want to discuss, are all on the table. There's a lot to discuss, even with a week and a half left to go till football. Plenty of things that we can hash out tonight. And of course, we will take your calls. We'll open up those phone lines in just a little bit. Let me set the table for us as you guys start to gather in the chat and go through those initial processes. I thought there was something a little off there on my microphone. Go through all of those initial things that we were talking about. Obviously, I already brought it up, a week and a half, 10 days of this as the time of this stream to Auburn football. We are just barreling closer, ever so closer to that most beautiful, beautiful time where we get together and just congregate around Jordan-Hare and everything that comes with tailgating and all just that good stuff that we're all looking forward to with that. Auburn just announced War Eagle Plus, which seems like it's going to be their, I don't know, Longhorn network of sorts, a exclusive content platform with which you're going to get interviews and videos and things like that, kind of as a subsidiary / its own thing too of On to Victory. What else has been going on that week? I mean, I honestly know there's a bunch of like small little things. Those are just the two things that are on top of my mind to kind of get us going and get us started tonight. But I know most of you are focused on the good old football season that will be here just shortly. We got Andrew, Thomas, John checking in, Megan checking, a lot of Facebook folks, people getting here earlier, Justin as well. Thank you guys so much. Bunch of people from Alabama checking in, somebody from Missouri. Got to give somebody from Missouri a shout out. How are they the Golden Tigers up there? Is that what they're called? Whatever version of Tigers they are. How are they up there in Missouri? Do you have to deal with that a lot, Andrew? It's an interesting little dynamic that we have with Missouri. I can never get used to them being in the SEC. It's just a weird little concept. All right, we're going to open up the phone line, which is always brought to you by our friends, All Things Auburn. Visit them at allthingsauburn.com and check them out. They are a great place to stay when you are on campus, but are close to campus. But also a great place to have an Auburn experience. So the phone lines are open. You can take advantage of that whenever you would like to. They are listed at the top of the YouTube chat, just the YouTube chat tonight. Click on it. You can be on camera or off camera, whatever you want to discuss. So the phone lines are officially open. Ooh, we got some more people checking in, some of our regulars here. I'm going to continue to remind you folks that our channel members, you need to be looking for your perks that you have there. There's a lot of you that are not taking advantage of certain perks that we just added into. Basically, if you are a channel member at any level, you get into. So be looking at that. And if you need information on that, we can talk in a different format, like email me or something like that. Kyle Loomis at e2cnetwork.com. We got Jack checking in from Iowa. We got the Midwest checking in. We've already talked a little bit about the Missouri people. Now we're talking about the Iowa people. Andrew calls them the fake Tigers. Too many Missouri fans around here. Well, I mean, you did place yourself in the heart of their country, so it's understandable that there would be too many of those people out there. But hey, look, it could be worse. Could be LSU fans. I'm just saying. Let's see here. Talking about the War Eagle Plus, I assume, John, seems a little bit expensive. I'll be honest with you. When I saw this come across, not just social media, but through our media, we get emails for members of the media, and it came through, and I read it, and I kind of like just brushed through it and dismissed it a little bit because I thought it was them just promoting the whole extra package experience on game day thing again. And then I realized, oh no, this is actually something brand new. So I need to like dig into it a little bit more. The little that I did look at into it, I didn't necessarily think that it was super expensive, but I'll have to look at it a little bit more in depth and watch their, I think they've got a trailer for it and everything like that that you can watch if you're interested in being a War Eagle Plus member. Can you guys hear me all right? It sounds a little bit odd in my headphones. I can hear myself in my headphones, so it just sounds a little bit off. Let me know if anything sounds off tonight. Corey, yes, we hit 4K. Thank you so much. In fact, it is not even a congratulations to me. It is a congratulations to you all. And what we're talking about, for those of you on Facebook, watching other places, we're talking about 4K subscribers here on YouTube. We're about to hit 4,000 followers on Facebook, so keep coming along there too, folks. But we are very grateful the fact that so many people have entrusted us with a subscribe. You know, that's an endorsement of sorts, and I appreciate that so much because that is, you know, your time that you devote to watching the content that we put out, and so that very much is appreciated. So thank you, everybody who is a subscriber who has helped us get there. Discord notification worked well, by the way. Good. I figured that's one of the things that hint folks that are channel members. One of the things that's good about that, John, is I can give you guys some more timely things in a easier fashion, things like that. And then obviously if you're at a certain tier, I give some more exclusive things that I traditionally have been giving. All right, let's dive into comments and questions, topics that y'all want to hit. Call in if you'd like. What are some Auburn specific things that you'd like to discuss tonight? Obviously, football's very much in the front of all of our minds, but let's get this thing going, or else I'm just going to start talking about what I want to discuss. Iowans don't consider Missouri as part of the Midwest. See, that's the problem for Missouri. And just to do a little history lesson here, if you remember, in the Civil War, it was like Missouri, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania was part of the Union. Anyway, Maryland, maybe, that were all those states that were the border states. They really didn't fall into one category or the other. So it's kind of the same here. If I can bring the Civil War into this, Missouri doesn't really fit in the SEC. They don't really fit in the Midwest, such as their lot in life. I thought they fit really well. I loved the old Big 12, the way it used to be. And look, I am actually thrilled that we're adding Oklahoma and Texas. I think it's going to just make this conference so much better in a lot of ways, even outside of football. But at the same time, I love the old Big 12. It was probably one of the more complete conferences in my book across all the sports. They're just competitive across the board, basketball, baseball, and football. You know, the Pac-12, they would be good in football sometimes, basketball sometimes, football occasionally. And then, you know, the Big 10. So to me, you know, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC were always the premier two, with the ACC and Pac-12 like the coast lagging behind, as they tend to do in certain things. Discord. Are you talking about the Discord? It was a pain to set up at first, but I like it now. That was one of my worries when setting that up, is that it would be a little bit of a pressure point to try to get through the process of getting into it. But I just think in the long term, I actually fought this forever. I don't know if y'all remember, we had, I don't know who to credit it to, but we had an individual who, I haven't seen him in a while, watch the show a lot and would just hammer me about, you need to get a Discord. You need to get a Discord. Well, we got one now. I told him, I said, I'm not dismissing it forever, but right now it just doesn't feel like we can maximize that opportunity. But here we are now. Which side of the ball is most concerning for this year, the offense or the defense? Most concerning. Anybody else? You can answer that question too. What do you think? Most concerning, offense or defense? That's a good question. If we kind of walk through that a little bit, obviously the furthest, it would be much easier for the defense to fall than the off. Well, no, it'd probably be just as easy for the offense to climb up. Maybe defense, but just because we've had okay defenses, we've had solid defenses over the collective of the last decade. But, I know the last 2 years at times left things to be desired. I guess it really just comes down to what our front seven looks like on the defense, and that probably would be the most concerning for me. What do you guys think? Glenn Fry says the heat is on. Are they even practicing? Yeah, they're practicing right now. And Corey, I'm not saying this to you, but what is fascinating to me is the fact that everybody thinks this is like unprecedented heat. It does this every single year. It may do it for like a day, but every single year when the end of August hits, we get scorchers. Like 4 years ago, it lasted into September where it was just awful. I nearly died walking around campus. But yeah, that's the great thing about having indoor facilities, right? You can go out there, but the reality is you're going to be playing in this 2:30 kickoff in a week and a half, which if you looked at the weather, it's not going to be, it's going to be decent. 87 is the high right now. So I'm going to call it 90 is the high just because it'll feel hotter than that. You're going to be playing it. You need to practice in it. I also know Iowans who claim anything south of 180 and is anything south of 180 is the South. I-80 runs through the middle of Iowa. See, I didn't even know I-80 existed. That's pretty interesting there. Oklahoma may be a stretch for travel. It's no worse than Arkansas. Well, it is worse distance-wise. However, Arkansas is not an easy travel. Like you got to go through Arkansas. So that is very, very difficult on the travel thing. So what's one more state over into Oklahoma? They're like right in the middle, right? Norman's kind of mid-ish, right? If I got my geography correct. It is what it is. At least we're not doing this whole cross-country thing like the Big Ten is. All right, I know there's a lot of good questions and comments that we're getting behind on. I know. We'll get back to them. Let's go ahead and take our first caller tonight. He is one of our regulars, Mr. Optimism. I think he is ready. We will find out. What's up, Kevin? With the number one, what's going on?
We will win the SEC championship this year.
Listen, you are Captain Optimism, and I love that about you. I would much rather have 10 of you than one of anybody else that's being pessimistic. So if you say that we're going to win the SEC championship, I believe you.
Yeah, Peyton Thorne is doing good in practice.
Seems like he's been doing pretty good. I mean, when you get named the starting quarterback, that's a pretty good vote of confidence. But what's more encouraging for me, Kevin, is the fact that it took this long for Coach Freeze to name him as the starter. And now listen, in terms of the overall timeline, it kind of matches up with what he wanted, but he wanted to be down to 2 of them much earlier. So I feel pretty good about the quarterback room as a whole, but happy to have Peyton as the starter.
How about the J.J. Falk? How you like him?
I liked him a lot. We did talk about him on a live stream earlier this week. What was it? When was that? Saturday? Sunday? Monday? Yeah. Monday.
He got all the Auburn fans nervous.
Well, that's recruiting for you, and that's why I always say don't make it a god for you because it'll disappoint you at times.
And his brother was at the ceremony.
Yeah, it seemed like he came in a little bit late. That was a really cool moment between him and his brother. I wasn't aware of their family situation. I think I have this correct, that their father passed away when they were younger. And so it's really special that they get to play together at Auburn, which preaches about family.
Yeah.
And that's just a really cool, special story. So I'm happy that we get to be a part of that. So I'm happy and excited to have him.
I think our wide receivers will do good this year.
Why do you think that? Who you got your eye on, and what do you think about him?
Shane Hook.
Shane Hooks. You seeing all the images and videos of him and everybody else making the great catches in practice?
Yeah, and Javaris Johnson be the one catch some touchdowns.
I hope so. I am a big Javaris Johnson fan in terms of rooting for these guys that have been here for a while. I think I've said that a lot on these shows, but
And Tyler
Fromm, Luke Deal too. A lot, like I said, a lot of these guys that have been here, whatever position, I'm really rooting for them.
Do we still have Brandon Fraser?
Yes. So our tight end room, I think in terms of the names to know, not to dismiss anybody that's a tight end at Auburn, but I would say these are your names to know: Tyler Fromm, Luke Deal, Rivaldo Fairweather, who some would argue he's more just a big wide receiver that can block a lot better.
Is he number 13?
Rivaldo?
Yeah.
I believe so. I don't have the roster put up in front of me, but that sounds right. 13, and I think that's what his number was at FIU. So that sounds about right.
I already got injured.
Oh dear.
Wait, you got injured? Are you talking to us? Or are you talking to somebody else?
I was talking to one of my friends from church.
Oh, okay. Well, don't be getting injured now. All right. We gotta have you in
Auburn friend.
Auburn friends. Well, tell them where we said War Eagle.
He said War Eagle.
All right. I got time for one more question. What you got on your mind?
The defense backs.
You just want to know my thoughts about him?
Yeah, Jason Jones and DJ James.
Well, Jason Jones is on the defensive line, but DJ James, I think he's poised to have himself a breakout year, probably position himself to go into the NFL draft really well this year. So I hope Nehemiah Pritchett also has a really solid year.
Nehemiah Pritchett, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't talking enough about him on the national stage, and I think that's a mistake. So I think we should feel really good about our cornerback.
Hey, guess what, Cal? I'll be at the first game.
All right, well, let's make it happen. Let's see each other in person, all right?
And my girlfriend be there, too.
Well, let's just make it happen. I'll see you guys at Tiger Walk, all right?
At 12:30.
Yes, 12:30. You're right. It's going to be a hot one. It's going to be definitely a hot one.
Yeah, I live in Mobile now.
Oh, you live way down there? That's quite a bit of a haul for you. Not too bad, but, longer than most, I think. What, 3 hours?
3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm a little shorter than that, but depends on traffic, though. You probably have a little less traffic than me.
Yeah.
So, all right, Kevin, thanks for calling in. Yep. Good to talk to you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye. Always good to hear from Kevin. You guys can call in too. Let us know your thoughts down there in the comments section, obviously, but you can obviously take advantage of the call-in line if you'd like to. All right, let me go back. Take some of these comments and questions that were coming in a little bit later. Justin asked on YouTube, thoughts about Peyton at quarterback 1 over Robbie. We've talked about this a little bit. And we did an initial reaction stream about this when it first was announced. And then Austin and I talked about it on the Auburn Experience. Just kind of general thoughts. It's what we all thought was going to happen, right? You'd have to have been lying to not sit there and say, you don't bring in a guy with that type of experience and not start him. Unless the guy who, we'll just use names, Robbie and Holden had progressed so much, which maybe they kind of did and made it interesting, right? To take the job from him. He's just a well-experienced. This feels a lot like Jarrett Stidham. Well, Jarrett Stidham, frankly, wasn't what he had 1 year at Baylor. That was about it. And then their whole situation happened. But still, it kind of feels a lot like Jarrett Stidham. We'll see if he sticks around as long as Jarrett did. Jared started as a sophomore, I think. Anyway, I'm happy with the decision, but let's get Robbie out there in the field as much as we can too. Let's see here. Yes, I saw that there was a Thorne interview today. I have not had a chance to watch it. It's in the media portal for me, but have not had a chance to watch that. Offensive line is the biggest question. Justin, I agree that until proven otherwise, they are always going to be the biggest question because there's no proof of concept that it has improved. Now, when I say that, please everybody hear me. That is not dismissing what these newcomers here, along with the holdovers, can accomplish together. And that's not even a commentary about the individuals that have left. But the unit has just been awful for the last 4 years. Just awful for whatever reason as a collective. And so until otherwise, it's probably just safe to assume that there shouldn't be a lot of expectations until they go out in the field and prove it. I mean, I'm just been burned so many times. Not a reflection on one individual or not. But yeah, I could understand that being a big question. Depth and injuries concern me, John says. Give me some examples. What are you concerned at injury-wise? What position concerns you depth-wise? Let me know. Everybody was happy to see Kevin and Mr. Brian checking in on Facebook. Brian, it's wild to see you checking on Facebook, checking on YouTube. You are everywhere, sir, and I love it. Minnesota. So we've got Iowa, Missouri, and Minnesota checked in. Anybody else? I know we've got Alabama. What other states are checking in? Peyton Thorne had success at MSU 2 years ago when they had a running game, and not so much the next year where they didn't have a running game. Will the O-line show up to allow both the run and the pass? That is the question we were just talking about. Look, it's not even a question of Peyton Thorne. It's not a question back then of Bo Nix. Were they the problem? It is a constant in football. If you cannot win the battle in the trenches, offensive line and defensive line, you will lose the game. That's it. I mean, do the other things matter and make big differences too? Absolutely. But it is so foundational to success in this game to win that battle there. You can't do it. You're not going to have a lot of success. Look at Auburn. Pell City checking in. Good to see a lot of you starting to get here and arrive. I went through Arkansas once. I was looking for cows being beamed up in an alien ship. Most boring drive ever. All right, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. So if there's something I might have skipped or missed, let me know. Just put it back in the chat. John says the defense injuries and depth. Well, let me think through that because I'm still asking what specifically positions you're concerned with. To me, we're pretty good at defensive back and safety. I think that's pretty solid in terms of depth, even if there are injuries. Linebacker, I would say we're pretty good too. Maybe defensive line, not the edge position, would give you some concerns. If that's what you're talking about, I could see that being one. Let me know what you think. I have to believe that with the new transfers that the O-line will be much better this year, but we shall see if it'll work together. Yeah, I think it's fine to always believe in assume the best. Well, I guess some people would say assume the worst, hope for the best. I don't necessarily think you should assume the worst. I do also think that it's been that bad for so long. It's okay to be a little bit pessimistic about the position. And not to say that these guys aren't going to immediately flip a switch and be 10 times better. Because if it was going to happen, this is the year, right? You got a complete changeover almost. I mean, pretty much you do too, since Tate didn't play last year. Cam Stutz played, but he didn't play well, I guess I shouldn't say that. He was not one of the original starters. And Jeremiah Wright kind of started and was injured, and it's a new offensive line, no matter how you slice it, right? No matter how you look at it. Linebacker mostly. Well, if you look at linebacker, there's a lot of guys there. You got Eugene Asante, you got Cam Riley, you got Wesley Steiner, you got Robert Woodyard, Larry Nixon III. Now, DeMario Talon leaving was a big hit. And I haven't heard any updates about him and his situation, but I hope they get it figured out. I hope we get to see him back here if that's in the cards for him. Corey says, I hope Auburn never gets dumped onto a Thursday night game. That would ruin my whole weekend. I didn't mind a Thursday night game every few seasons. thankfully, the SEC has made itself so dominant in the TV viewership space that I don't think you're ever going to see that again. I shouldn't. Well, right now, I don't think you're ever going to see that again. Watch me like someone. No, Kyle, there's a Thursday night game this season. I think those days are over for the SEC. That's an ACC problem now. I think Freeze will light up the wide receivers like a Christmas tree. Maybe so. Maybe so. Time's going to tell. Let's see here. Running backs will have the most. Let's see. Tom, which group do you think will have more yards this season? Were y'all asking Thomas that, or were y'all asking me? Which do you think will have more yards, wide receivers or running backs? I mean, if you go off of Hugh Freeze's system, it's going to be the wide receivers, right? Just off of history, but this is Auburn. And we're not necessarily running Hugh Freeze's offense. So the better question is, what did that look like under Philip Montgomery? Anybody got the answer to that? Were they more pass heavy, rush heavy? Thoughts, opinions, derogatory rebuttals? Let me know. Wasn't the last Thursday night game against Kentucky? You know, that feels right. That does feel right. I can't think of I feel like South Carolina was one time, but that was a long time ago. Yeah, I think that Kentucky game on a Thursday night, I remember because I went up about 30 minutes to watch with AJ. Those of y'all know AJ on the No Huddle show at his house that night. I think it was at his house. But yeah, we won that one. Luckily, wasn't easy though. Big Simp in the house. What's going on, Big Simp? Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Yeah, I didn't mind the novelty factor of a Thursday night game every once in a blue moon, but it is not something that I necessarily want to see long term or see as a regular ever again. Was the 3-2 win at Mississippi State on a Thursday night? Let's find out. Now you've got me intrigued, sir. You got me so intrigued about this. Auburn. Sorry, you're going to see the camera rocking while I type Mississippi State. The first thing that pops up, Auburn, Mississippi State, 3-2. September 30th. Let's see if it says on ESPN if this was a Thursday night. I'm looking. Let's see, September 30th. It does not list the day, and I'm not going to bore you guys by. I think that is correct. I was at the Auburn Baptist Campus Ministries that night watching the game, and we had an upper level and a lower level in that building. The upper level is where everybody hung out, but there was a TV. It's like a smaller room down there, and I was so mad at what was going on in that game that I had to go watch it by myself in the lower level. And I just remember pitching a fit when we ended that game and somehow pulled that win out of our butts. It was awful, absolutely awful. Like I would never wish a loss on us, but gosh, that made me wish it on us. Or it kind of made me, dude. Big Simp says, I hope we beat teams down with a variety of running backs. If the O-line is improved, we have the backs to play grown man ball. You absolutely do. As we've said every year, the offense really hinges upon the play of the offensive line. It's just that simple. It really is just that simple. How do you see the special teams doing this year? They are the least known, but can be game changers. I wouldn't say, well, if you mean they're the least known just every year, well, that's true because nobody really talks about that in comparison to the offense and the defense. But in terms of being a pretty solid special teams unit, I think we've got one of the more solid ones. I mean, think about it this way. You've got a junior Oscar Chapman who's been here for quite some time. Yeah, he's third team all SEC, but he's still an all SEC type guy. Alex McPherson comes from a very good pedigree and apparently hit a 60, was it a 68 yard? No, it wasn't a 68. It was like a 57 7-yarder. Apparently, some said it would have been good from like 65 or something like that. Good pedigree. Seems to have the chops to back that up, or the kick to back that up. So that should make you feel good about it. We've got a ton of really good athletes that can be returners and also coverage men. So when it comes down to what's Auburn's potential at the special teams, they have one of the highest potentials, I think. Just have to wait and see. You got to score most of the time, or at least be in position to kick a field goal for that to matter. You kind of don't want your punter to take center stage. Oscar Chapman's had to do that, unfortunately for him. I think he's the one player in the team's like, you know what? I'm good sitting over here if we don't have to punt ever. Watch the 2004 season again. Yeah, it's good. It'll really jazz you up if you watch that team that year, especially. And listen, it's always fun to think back, to talk about those famous, very well regarded teams. But sometimes when the years are removed, we forget about the context around them. And when I say context, that's including what happened the year and years before and after. I mean, that 2004 team, there was it was probably just as unlikely. Well, maybe not as unlikely because they still had Cadillac and Ronnie and Campbell. But just if they couldn't make it work in 2003 with that backfield, how are they going to make it work in 2004? You can make the same case for the 2013 team. How are y'all going to make it work after imploding after winning a national championship in 2 years? 1993. Think about that team. Sanctions, no reason to play for anything, and they did. And 1993, 1983, having to go up the juggernaut that was Alabama and take them down. So you think about the context around those games, it's even bigger. Big Simp says, I'm sick of the media trying to make everyone think Bama doesn't have a quarterback. As much as I dislike the turds, they are still Bama. Absolutely. I 100% agree with Big Simp here. And, we've had people kind of bring this topic up before and say, I feel good about playing Alabama because it seems like they're having trouble with quarterback. Folks, it doesn't matter who's that quarterback. As we just said a little while ago, the trenches are where you win the games. Alabama's just fine on both sides of the trenches. There have been quarterbacks at Alabama that should not looked as good as they did. Why? Because they had great support around them. Bo Nix with better support around him, you see what happens. The proof isn't that for all those people, and I saw y'all, some of you, I don't think anybody here watching in the chat right now, but I saw a bunch of y'all celebrating Bo Nix struggling in his first game last year. It wasn't just him, but guys, got to have support. So to your point, I don't care, frankly, if their quarterback isn't looking all that solid. I want to know what their offensive line looks like, their defensive line, their front seven on defense, their wide receivers too. Granted, the quarterback's got to run the offense, get the ball to those playmakers, but he's certainly going to have the protection from that. Speaking of 2004, Reggie Bush thinking he's going to sue the NCAA is comical. Yeah, I saw this today, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it because there's a part of me that hears someone going after the NCAA is like, yeah. But then you hear it's Reggie Bush, and you're like, nah. I really don't know where to fall on this. What do you guys think? Where are you at? I would assume that it's pretty split. Some people just don't like Reggie Bush, and even if this is a good thing to do, we're not going to like him. That's kind of where I fall. I have nothing wrong with Reggie Bush as a person, but in terms of what he allegedly was part of, pay for play and all that stuff, that just to me is kind of like the mark of no return in terms of I shouldn't say that. But anyway, the point is, I don't really know what to make of this whole Reggie Bush NCAA mess. It's just weird. Jack finally looked it up for us, figured it out. It was a Saturday game, talking about that 3-2 win. That I felt like it was a Saturday game simply because I remember the people that I had to remove myself from because I was being that much of a nuisance, being angry about the 3-2 game against Mississippi State. And there wouldn't have been that. Well, there might have been, but I felt like there was a lot of people. I think Nix was good. He did the best he could considering. Now, and I also don't want, when I defend Bo, I also don't want it to be missed that I think that he was without faults and without problems. He got into some bad habits, but the problem is you would too if you were of his caliber still, and then having to deal with what he had to deal with. So Bo is an outstanding quarterback. Arguably will be one of the biggest losses probably we've had in the 2000 era in terms of players that left early or things like that. You could probably make that case. You know, whatever happened. Y'all remember when everybody was cheering on Harsin for telling, that story of him and Daddy going to tell him, this is how it's going to be on the depth chart? I hope none of y'all bought that. That was the most stupid thing to ever buy. Oh, goodness. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. I could see this year being a lot like the 2009 team. New coaches, and if the team buys into what they are being told, will pay dividends next year. I like that. I really do like that, WT. I like the comparison with the 2009 team. If I can take you all back there for a little bit, and that was my junior, well, it was more than my junior year, but it was my official junior year. And I just remember how much fun that year was, even with the struggles at times. It was just a fun football season. And when the season ended, we were all looking forward to the next year. The common person who doesn't get on message boards and stuff didn't really know that much about Cam Newton and with him coming in. If you were on message boards, you probably knew that, how big a deal that was going to be, clearly so. But for me, I like the analogy of the 2019 because I think that's a good way to look at it. A team with a lot of potential. It just depends on how it's going to flip one way or the other. Poetic Tigers here. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. All right. We got our next caller in. Let's say hello to them. We'll get back to comments and questions. You know him. You love him. Mr. Thomas Manville in the house, sir. What's up?
War Eagle, y'all. How are y'all this evening?
I'm doing well on my end. It seems like everybody else is doing well too. What's on your mind tonight?
Clearly, it's the offensive line like normal.
When is it not on the offensive line for you?
Yeah, but and I'm sure some of y'all have already seen it, but had a little movement within the projected starters already. And we did have Gunnar Britton sitting at right tackle, but Xavier Too Tall Miller has emerged, and they said we just can't keep him off the field. So what do you do as a head coach or an offensive line coach? You put your best five out there. And they shuffled Gunnar Britton over to the left guard, and that's a big dude playing left guard at 6'7". That's a big dude.
That is a big man at the guard position. I don't care where they play as long as they block, right? If and here's the thing too. I clearly was not an offensive lineman, coming up. You can look at my build and see that from me alone. But Gunnar Britton to me is tall. I think it's really his height that makes people think tackle, but sometimes that can be a little bit misleading on how athletic, because you think the taller you get, the less coordinated you might be, unless you're Jabari Smith, who just can move crazy with what his measurables are. But that's basketball. Yeah, so Gunnar Britton moving over is surprising, but that's a good encouragement if somebody's doing so well that you're like, nah, bro, we got to put him out there. you know?
Yeah, you're right. And it's weird because dang it, the guy from Tulsa, left tackle, Dylan Wade, when he first transferred in, he was listed at 6'4". Now on the official team roster, he's listed at 6'3". So that's awfully short for a starting tackle in almost any league. You normally have a bigger guy with much longer arms out there, but if they say he can hold it down at left tackle, one of the most the most difficult positions to play. If he can hold that down, then I'm all for it. But it may look a little weird having him and then Gunnar Britton next to each other when normally
it's gonna be like that. If you look at like the lineup across, it'll go like, you know, this way, kind of down, and then back up and then down again. Like if you were like lining them up, literally lining them up like a line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dylan Wade coming in. I remember everybody was saying there's no way he's going to play tackle when he gets here. And lo and behold, it seems like he's going to be able to do that. Is Peyton Thorne a lefty or a righty?
I believe he's right-handed.
I think he is too. So that does make him the most valued position on that line. So that should say to people right there that just your measurables, while they may dictate where you end up, it doesn't always determine what you're able to accomplish when you put your mind to it. So if they're going to trust him with the blind side, that's ironic right now, then, you know, yeah, you want to open that door up. No one didn't see that coming, you know, because it was the blind side. That was my bad dad joke for the day. So
it looks like the projection is a 6'3" from, I guess, from left to right is 6'3", 6'7", 6'4", 6'5", and 6'6", which is pretty decent size. I mean, I'm not worried about Dylan Wade at left tackle, but it's just kind of odd to see somebody that I say short is 6'3". That's not short, but in terms of collegiate offensive lineman or even pro offensive lineman for that matter, it's kind of a different look. But if they're really going to put the best 5 guys out there, I'm all for it. And they may shift some things around a little bit more once we get into this first game and maybe the second game at Cal.
Yep. Yeah. And look, I think that's the way everybody should treat definitely the first game, probably that second game too, because it'll show you a lot of different things being on the road. But even that third game, you know, really after that third game, and then I guess I keep adding on top of it, I really think that fourth game, the Texas A&M game, even though it's going to be on the road, is going to tell you the most, because you will have faced your hardest opponent and you will have at least some idea of who is really going to help you after that point. Who is in a position to help us win right now? And how do we need to switch people out after Texas A&M? If you need to switch it out, did we already get them into place? So while the first 3 games will allow you some play a little bit, that fourth game is going to be really the big one.
Yeah. Things have got to be solidified very early on. We can't rotate guys like we have the last 2 years along the offensive line trying to figure out who's going to work better where.
Right.
Because if you don't have enough experience at that position, it's a detriment to the whole entire game plan. It's a huge detriment to the quarterback especially and the running backs, because if you're going, well, I'm kind of new here, I'm still learning the ropes, which we did way too dadgum often. It just kills all of your offensive momentum before you even start playing the game. It really does. Because, I mean, I've said it a million times, and I'll say it till I'm in the ground, but the offensive line and the defensive line is where the game is won and lost, and grown men are made in the A-gap. Yep. So that's either side of the center. That's the A-gap. Then you go further out, and you got B-gaps and C-gaps and all that. But it's grown men are made in the A-gap. That's the most important spot on the field as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And then some folks will agree, and some people say it's the quarterback, but if nobody's blocking, he can't do his job, so it doesn't matter.
No, I 100% agree. As I was saying earlier, that Bo is a perfect example of that. You can't, you got no protection. You can't stand up long enough or feel like you don't have to scramble. If you've got no movement being created on the offensive line, your running backs can't have a lane to run through. Thus, you have no running game to support you, and you can just continue to build it from there. If you got no time to throw it to your wide receivers, so much is dependent upon that. It is the most important unit on the team, and opposite side, obviously the defensive line too. So 100% agree with you there. You know, something was funny I was thinking about while you were talking about A gap, B gap, C gap. Did anybody ever call it D gap in these like 2 tight end packages where they're like lined up on jumbo style on one side?
You know, playing offense, we didn't really. I mean, it was pretty much an outside run or outside zone or something at that point. But we always refer to it as like personnel groupings. Like 10 personnel is 1 running back and no tight ends. 12 personnel is 1 running back and 2 tight ends. So things like that. And there's a lot of terminology that goes into football, and I'm glad I don't have to deal with it anymore.
John wants us to run it down UMass's throat. So let me ask you,
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas, which running backs, or how many running backs, and maybe name them, break 100 yards against UMass? Honestly, don't just let me lead you into that and say a bunch of them, but like, who do you think is going to break 100 yards?
I think Jarquez probably runs for every bit of 130, probably 2 scores. I think they'll probably let Damari eat a little bit too. They might, and Brian Batti's going to be out there one way or another. I don't see him going for 100 on the ground, maybe 100 combined through the
I was about to say.
But I honest to God, I think Robbie could get 100 that game on the ground.
And if Brian runs special teams too, like we expect him to, think about what his all-purpose yards could be.
He led the country in all-purpose yards last season.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so we're sitting here talking about Jarquez, we're thinking about Damari, and rightfully so. But you're forgetting, I'm telling you, Corey Grant. Everybody remember Corey Grant? Taillights? He was more known for his running game, but he was the Swiss Army knife of the running backs. Catch it out of the backfield. He'd also run kickoffs back. Like, think about that for this guy. This guy is going to be humongous for this team in terms of being a playmaker and play creator. And when he starts busting out a few of these things, and then everybody sees, okay, it's not just that he did it at South Florida. He's doing it here too. That's going to create havoc for defense and saying, you can't, when this guy's on the field, watch him. It's not just a decoy. It's not just someone giving Jarquez or Damari a break. Brian Battie is on the field. Stop Brian Battie. And then all of a sudden, we're going over here away from him. So,
right. Well, you spread the field out to spread the defense out, and then that gives you more opportunities for things right down the middle. Slant passes over the middle, crossing routes over the middle. Those intermediate passes we didn't really get much of last couple of years. But it also, if you've got a single back in the backfield and you've got 3 receivers over here, and the defense is starting to flow over that way as the game goes on, that opens it up for a giant run down the middle.
Yep.
Like when Jarquez just took one all the way to the dadgum house against Alabama State a couple of years ago.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. I'm so excited for him in what he could potentially be for Auburn this year, but the running back room as a whole. So you think Jarquez is playing first game?
If he plays, I think he's going for 130 and 2 scores.
What's your gut telling you? Think he's going to play?
As much as he's practicing, and I hadn't heard anything poor come out of anybody I've talked to, so I really hope he does. But if he doesn't, I bet you Damari can go for about the same amount. He is a talented kid, man. He's quick too.
If Damari gets the chance to be the star back for UMass, that kid's going to eat. Like, he's like, this is my time. He's going to do what Jeremy Johnson did, but failed to do after the first game when he got his opportunity and shined in that one game, Yeah, no, I was thinking of the, and maybe I'm thinking of the incorrect one, the Arkansas game. Remember when we played Arkansas, the first game of the season? You remember that?
I don't remember that one.
Nick Marshall was out because of off-the-field violations in the offseason for the first game. It was the first half, I think, but he came in and just looked like an all-star, like we kind of assumed he would be. And the rest is history, as they say. So after all that, all right. Final thoughts, sir, before we move on. But I know we'll hear from you again next week too. But final thoughts about a week and a half out about the team.
I cannot wait for football to be back in season, just like all the time, just constantly. Because between college and pro, there's games on like 4 nights a week. So I'm going to be real busy with the TV, which I'm not ever busy with the TV outside of football season, really. But man, I'm so excited to get back into it. I'm excited to hear the pads popping on TV. I'm excited for the band to strike up the band, baby. Let's ride. Let's go. I really think those 8 wins is doable. I think that surpasses my expectation. And I think that comes with a bowl win. I'll say 8-9 with a bowl win, 8 solid. Makes me happy. I think it's a good place to start for Hugh Freeze and the whole staff. I think we're much improved position-wise on the majority of the team. I think we have.
Yeah.
But I'm just itching to get back into it because that means it's barbecue season too for me.
Yes, all the good food for football season, tailgating. It's going to be here before you know, well, in a week and a half. So just everybody get space, emptied out in your stomachs. We're all going to eat good when we get to if you come to campus, like I'll be there. So Thomas, good to hear from you. And obviously I'm sure we'll be talking to you a lot in the coming weeks.
Yes, sir. War Eagle. Y'all have a good evening.
War Eagle Thomas. All right, everybody, you can keep calling in if you'd like. We got about a little over 10 minutes probably left on the stream, so don't be shy if you're wanting to call in now. Take advantage of that. I'll hit some of y'all's comments and questions that y'all had during the call there. So drop those into if you want to take advantage of that opportunity. Mobile broadcast studio tour. Well, Tyler, this isn't the mobile broadcast studio. This is the room tour. If you watch the full screen, well, I'll pull it out full screen for a second. That's kind of the view you have. It's a little bit more up and wider when I do regular videos, but mobile broadcast studio tour, there's not much to see when we do that from campus. It's just the back of my car. It used to be the front seat of my car, but I've got a different setup this year, so it'll be the middle seat of my car. I am investigating doing some stuff differently this year, but we will see. I keep having to be cryptic about it. Some of y'all know this, but there's some very busyness that'll be coming into my life soon that I'm going to have to leave flexibility for, and that is a good thing. But at the same time, some of the ideas I had for the season, I'm gonna have to hold off for a little bit. Corey says, "Blah," to the pro football. Traditionally, I say it's not a blah for me. It's just not interested outside of the playoffs. And by the way, Tyler, are we doing a pro or a fantasy football league this year? What's Whit doing? Are we doing one? Answer me that. I like following up with our current players, or former players, I should say, in the NFL. That's what gets me jazzed up for pro football, but that's about it. I have some allegiances to certain teams, but not too much. Yeah. Listen, I don't want to make this about bashing Jeremy Johnson, but there were some pretty bad moments there. I wish I didn't. Let's see here. Jeremy Johnson actually came into my workplace the other day and was the chillest guy. I was surprised people recognized him. People remember Jeremy. Look, Jeremy Johnson was the heir apparent to everything that we knew that the Gus Malzahn system was capable of, and it just didn't work. And there was no reason to think it wouldn't work either. It just didn't. It really didn't. I don't know why. I don't understand it. But he's a Montgomery guy, so I'm not surprised that you saw him in there. Season prediction stream coming. So yes, with a question mark, because I'm debating on whether it should be just a regular video or a stream. We probably will do a stream next week, season prediction stream of some sort, meaning we'll just hash it out together, kind of like we've done previously. But I also want to put together like a final prediction show for you guys from me, or a video, if that my time allows. I hope it will. But good thought. It's probably what we're going to pull off here. Who do you think will be the leading tackler this year? Good question. Very good question. Leading tackler this year. Well, usually that means it's going to be a front seven guy, usually a linebacker, an edge rusher, defensive end type of guy. I would think that would set up really well for Elijah McAllister, for Jalen McLeod. Maybe one of our other linebackers, like a Cam Riley, who had a really good start to the season last year. You also could see when we run out there, a nickelback out there being potential really good tackler too. But if they're getting a lot of the tackles. If the defensive back guys are getting a lot of the tackles, that's usually a problem. So I'm going to hope we're talking about a Jalen McLeod or Elijah at the edge rusher position, or we're talking about Cam Riley, Wesley Steiner, Larry Nixon, Eugene Asante, forgetting some other people there too. Robert Woodyard, one of those. Austin Keys. How did I not talk about Austin Keys? He is probably going to be one of our favorite players to have on the team this year because he just looks like a nut, like an absolute nut in the best way. Like he is hilarious, loves the camera. You got to love having guys like that on your team. It makes it good for the fans, but I'm sure it makes it good for the players too. Are they going to wear those helmet guard things during the games? You're talking about like the bubble wrap looking stuff around the helmet? No, that's just if that's what you're talking about, no, that's a practice only type of thing just to limit the contact with all this, concussion protocol stuff to limit all that stuff. Yeah. Austin Keys. I don't know how I forgot about him earlier on. Brian vouches for the NFL. I live in an NFL town, passion for it like we have for Auburn, and I love it. And I think that is the reason why at least Auburn fans and Alabama fans, you don't see as much passion for that. And when I say that, I'm talking about the traditional sense of what people think. Like you're just as much as part of the Auburn family, Brian. You know that we've had this conversation, but like the stereotype of what an Auburn, Alabama, from the South, usually from Alabama or outskirts of Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Florida. Nobody really like latches on to an NFL team because think about it. It's either New Orleans, Titans, Atlanta, or one of those Florida teams, Carolina, maybe, but they're all kind of spread out from that. So I can understand why there's not as much affinity towards the pros, but when you live in an NFL town, I can see why that also be hyped up too. Which recruit is up next to announce soon? I had that written actually. Let me look it up for you. So I think there was some discussion that maybe there's a new leader or prospect at safety. Zaquan Patterson is supposed to commit on the 26th, but I think he was going towards, is it Miami? That doesn't, last I heard, that wasn't trending in our direction or lost steam. After that, you have got the next Saturday, DeAndre Carter on the 3rd, who we seem to be in good position for, which will make everybody happy because an offensive lineman committed, maybe. So that should be your answer to that. Green screen in the car. No, it'll just be the back seat. I bought, I'll pull the curtain back for you guys. I bought this like little platform thing. You probably saw it a little bit like in baseball season when I did some streams after the tournament games. It allows me to kind of sit at the actual computer in front of me and manage it. It bounces a little bit, so it's not an ideal setup. But what I'd love to do is actually do a live broadcast from a tailgate spot, and working on that. Corey wants us to break out the navy pants for the Bama game. I understand the appeal behind that. I do. However, I just don't think / want anything to mess up the traditionalness of the Iron Bowl. To me, that is the quintessential Auburn football game, and nothing really needs to be changed with it. Now, for things like, if you want to break out for Ole Miss, well, but then we're not going to play them every year now. Get a game now. That would be cool because we used to always play them around Halloween, so it was known as the Halloween game. That'd be cool to like change things up around them. But I understand the appeal. Home games need the white pants and blue jerseys. I mean, I think it would look good. It'd be a little dark, but I understand the appeal. I can't let my traditionalness go from that. All right, we're going to go ahead and close down the phone lines, folks. Thank you all that called in tonight. Always good to hear from you. We will start taking final comments and questions here, so don't If you want something discussed, addressed, get it in right now. Let me go ahead and give you the spiel at the end of every show. So just stick around for that if you can, and then we'll get back to comments. Don't miss. In fact, if you'll stay to the end of the stream, I always say this, and I know some of you do it, but I hope you all can do it. If you'll just stay in the stream, it should take you on YouTube directly to the next live watch page. If you will do that, smash the like button, the notify me bell, even if you don't think that you're going to be able to make it, do it anyway. It's a huge help to us in helping us grow. But episode 49 will be this Sunday at 9 Eastern with Austin and myself. Obviously, we'll be talking some sort of a preview for the season and some other topics within the Auburn experience. If you're not a channel member, aka Conquer Club, official announcement coming soon. You need to be, because there's some cool perks in there that you can get for yourself, but also help support us here at E2C Network. Booster Club is the same thing, what was formerly known as the Booster Club. But thank you guys that are willing and able to support us financially as a fan-supported show, but also thank you all for being here and just hanging out and supporting us that way. Check out those links in the description for ways that you can help support us here. I am a traditionalist, WT says. I understand. It's a plight. It's a burden we carry being traditionalists for uniforms and things like that. But I will not also pitch a fit if we decide that we're going to do something a little bit different. Now, those white face masks on the white storm that made us more stormtrooper-y, that was really nice. Really, 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 really nice. Thomas dropping the War Eagle, y'all. E2C for life. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, with our final minutes here, is there anything that you guys are wanting to see this season? Again, I can't make humongous promises, just given what could be my schedule this fall. But if there's certain things that you are or not wanting to see this year from this channel, let me know. We're a little bit different from a lot of the other YouTube channels, as in, we do things, try to make ourselves a little bit unique from that. They do great work over there, but I always try to give you guys what you're wanting to see here. I know, listen, there's no one more excited than this guy right here. I mean, I started a YouTube channel, so we're all just going to be, here's what's going to happen. We're all going to get together next Wednesday and just not be able to control ourselves. I mean, it's probably just going to be, just come back next Wednesday and just see how crazy it gets around here. All right, final question. How good do you think the basketball team will be this year? That's a $1 million question, because we thought they were going to be outstanding. Well, they were outstanding at times last year, but consistently outstanding. I don't know. Let me think on that. I don't have a good answer for that. Post-game chats will be fun. We're going to do those, I promise. Are you still going to do 2 shows this season per week? Well, they will always have the 2 shows per week, Wednesday nights and Sunday nights, but you're talking about the review and the preview show. I would like to do some version of that. Will that be live streams? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know yet. Stand by. Like I think I said this on a previous stream, Ben King is not going to be able to do that stream with us this year. Unfortunately, he and I talked recently. He's just not going to be able to work with what he's got going on. So that's unfortunate, but stand by. I know that's something that you guys liked. I'd like to make those happen if possible. This may not be a reality this year. Well, I shouldn't even say that. Just stand by. What's cooler? I'll take final rapid fire questions here. What's cooler? Blue out, orange out? Would a blackout or whiteout be cool? Blue out and orange out more than whiteout or blackout. No news on the uniform provider. Clint will know that before any of us, probably. The Bucky mascot better show up in an Auburn jersey. Probably not going to happen. They are very protective of that. And you love the previews. We will do our best to make those happen. All right. Got to get out of here, folks. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Smash that like button on the way out if you enjoyed the show. Hope to see you back next Wednesday. But before that, Sunday, 8 Eastern time. And stay tuned to this channel for not just the weeks, the 10 days leading up to the season, but for this whole season. It's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy. And we're going to enjoy the freeze warning that's about to hit the plains officially very, very soon. Till I talk to you all again, appreciate you so much. War Eagle.